Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I have some book recommendations for you that have really great autumn vibes. So I was gonna just do like autumn vibes and spooky vibes all together, but then I thought I would keep them separated because I do have like some great spooky reads that aren't romance that I didn't want to involve in here. So this list is just specifically for romance only. I mean, some different subgenres of romance. So first book that I want to recommend is a new favorite of mine, and it is Soft Flannel Hank. This book, I just love this book so much. I've talked about it a lot. This is a light paranormal romance. It feels more like a contemporary romance with just some light paranormal elements in it. And if you love Twilight, if you used to love Twilight, if you love the movies, the books, and you really loved Charlie, you have got to read this, because this is sort of like Charlie's love story, where he meets a witch, falls in love with her, and he is just the protective, wonderful hero that you have wanted from the moment you first read or saw him on screen. So this book is about Hank, who is divorced and his daughter has left him, and he lives in this small town in the Pacific Northwest, and he has just left the police force, and he's really struggling with feelings of sort of despair and self-loathing, and he's in therapy at the same time, and he ends up stumbling across this woman who is a witch. He doesn't realize she's a witch at first, and they have this really great connection, and they end up having one night together, and they can't stop thinking about each other. They get pulled apart, drawn together, pulled apart, drawn together over and over throughout the course of the book. And I just absolutely love the characters in this. I love the setup of the romance. This feels very reminiscent of Twilight feels, but it feels like it's an adult story for sure, because we've got Charlie, who is, I think, in his 40s, and he definitely has a dad bod. It's just so great. And I honestly can't remember if this is set in the fall. I feel like it might be, but it gives fall vibes for sure. Okay, then the next book I want to recommend is Prior Affair by Christina C. Jones. So this is a novella. This is part of a series, but it's not super connected to it's not connected to the other parts of the series where you would be missing like information. This book is one of my favorites. Very short and just to the point, with great characters, great romance. I just love it so much. And again, I'm not sure if this is set in the fall, but it definitely gave me fall vibes, and I love it so much. This also has a little bit of an added like mystical paranormal element with some things that I don't really want to spoil, because it's so fun when you get in and you realize what has happened, but it does have that element to it. So it's basically, we have our heroine who she came to this town, Blackwood, where she's hoping to sort of uncover some information that she's looking for, when a tragedy strikes and she ends up getting saved by our hero, and they end up sort of thrown into forced proximity because she has nowhere to go, and he ends up, saying, you can stay at my house, and that's how the beginning of like their relationship starts. And it's just lovely, beautiful, excellent writing, just a great story. Loved it a lot. Okay, so now the next one is also a novella, and it is A Day Until Forever by Erin Langston. This is such a cozy, sweet historical romance. I love it so much. This one, I believe, does take place at fall, because there's like an autumn festival that is happening, and that's where our plot takes place. The whole thing takes place at the festival. So we have our hero, who is he has just come into his title, and he's really trying, or he will come into his title. His dad is still there, and he's really trying to make things right, because his dad kind of like squandered it and lost money, and nobody was taken care of in the earldom, I believe is what it was. So he's trying his best to get it back shipshape in order, and he needs to have this piece of land. But the guy who owns the land is not going to like agree to it unless he's like, look, I need you to like sort of be chaperone bodyguard to my daughter. She's going to go to this autumn festival tonight, and I'm really worried that this loser of a guy is gonna maybe like ruin her because she likes him. And so our hero is like, fine, I'll do it. And so he goes and sort of like watches her, and that's where the two of them fall in love. He's definitely grumpy with her. She's the sunshine. And this one had a little bit of a mystical element to it as well, like fortune-telling type of aspect, and I just loved it. It was so cozy and so fun, and just a great read. Okay, so now the next book is one of my favorites. I've talked about it a lot on my channel, and it is Heart in the Highlands by Heidi Kimball. This is a historical romance, and it is so achingly beautiful. This deals with family on a grander scale than just our couple, and this is also like second chance, secret baby, marriage in trouble, it's all of those wonderful tropes that are just done to perfection. Like, everything in this book feels so sensitively done and just really beautifully written, and the way that this author is able to play with your emotions to keep you feeling things at such a high level without ever going into that over-the-top territory is just something that I admire and love so much. So this is basically, we have an arranged marriage. We have a Scottish duke, the son of a Scottish duke, and him and his dad have like butted heads for a really long time, and he's finally like, look, you will marry this English girl, and you know, there's nothing you can do about it. And so the son, like, very much sort of like Simon in The Duke and I, like, hates his father, doesn't want to have anything to do with him, but he agrees to this marriage because then his father will help someone in the dukedom who needs the help, otherwise he wouldn't. So they end up getting married, and from the moment that they meet, you know, she's also a little bit reluctant. She doesn't really want to marry him. Her grandfather set up this marriage because he believed it would be the best opportunity for her to have happiness in her life, and the two of them meet, and they feel like, we could be happy together, we could be a good match for each other. And it's really beautiful. Something happens that tears them apart. It creates a time jump, and there's a lot of sort of like forgiveness that needs to happen between mostly the hero to the heroine when they do get back together. And it's just so lovely, and the setting really is what gives this one autumn vibes to me, because again, this takes place over a lot of time, but just the way that the Highlands, maybe it's just me, I associate the Highlands and how the setting plays such a huge part in this, with like sort of misty rain, the closing of a season. It's just so lovely. I can't recommend it enough. And then I have another novella, and it is Scorched Roses. So this is set in the bigger world that Carissa Broadbent has written, like her Crowns of Nyaxia world, but you don't need to read those books in order to read this. If you just want to start with Carissa Broadbent here, you totally could. So this one has a really interesting plot. We have our heroine who is living in a town, and the town has like this curse on it where everyone has this illness and people are dying, and the heroine knows that her life is not like promised. Like, she knows that she's going to probably end up dying sooner than later, but she wants to find a way to cure or help the people in her town, her loved ones, before she dies. And she also has sort of like a scientific mindset. So she decides to go and approach the vampire, the only vampire around, and ask for his help to get this curse that the gods have put on her town off. She believes that if he provides his blood, that would be a way to heal her village. And so she says, hey, if you give me 6 vials of blood, I will give you 6 of these roses. And so they agree to that. And then, of course, they fall in love. And it was just very interesting, very quick read, very fun. Just enjoyed it a whole lot. A little bit of paranormal, a little bit of fantastical, and just a really fun, gothic feeling fantasy romance. Okay, and then the last book that I have to recommend is The Ruin of Evangeline Jones. This is also a historical romance. So I picked this one because it is centered a lot around like fortune tellers, and it sort of was giving me like carnival vibes, even though I don't believe that is true, which is something I associate with fall and like Halloween and things like that. But this is a fun one, very interesting. This has our hero who is like bound and determined to bring charlatans to light, to like prove that they're false and fake and that they're scamming people. And he has sort of had this fixation on Evangeline Jones, who is like a fortune teller, and he wants to prove that she is false, but he also like lusts after her and wants her very, very much. And she sort of sees that to her advantage, and she's going to use his attraction and desire towards her against him, and they make a bargain. And she says, okay, if you prove that I am false, then you have to do these things for me, and if you prove that if you prove that I'm false, then I will stop, this will be no more, and I will be ruined financially and otherwise. And if you can't, however, then you have to do this for me. So it's very interesting. This book I almost didn't include because it's not one of my favorites, but I am putting it on here because I still think that it's worth a read. This one definitely leaned more into their physical relationship than I prefer, but it was still fun and interesting, and it did give me those fall vibes for sure. So, alright my friends, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope y'all enjoyed it. If you have made it this far, please feel free to leave any type of leaf for autumn, and I'll see y'all in my next video.